So guys, it's 8:05. You guys are the most patient group of alumni, and I would not want to take it off of mute right now for the world. I haven't seen Ron join the call just yet. I know this is such an important call, and we are doing everything we can, and I'm willing to wait if you guys are for Ron to join the call. So like I said, I've got everybody on mute. When it comes time for Q&A, if you'll press the number 5 and then star. That's 5 and then star. That will raise your hand, and I'll know to pick you. We're choosing folks at random. I hope we get through a lot of questions tonight, and I'm going to press Ron to give us a little extra time. I work off-site. Otherwise, I would know where he is right now. So I'm sure he's on his way to a meeting room right now. Hey, gang, it's Cindy again. We are now 10 minutes into the call, and we are calling and texting and locating Ron Luce right now. Again, I'm not sure where he is. I work off-site. Otherwise, I would have him on the call, I promise. Thank you all for your amazing patience. We are going to get to your questions. Like I've said to folks who've been on the call for a while and those who are now joining, I've got everyone on mute. Once the Q&A starts, you can press the number 5 and then star, and that'll raise your hand so you can ask questions. I'm going to be choosing questions at random, and I don't know who you are, so you're not pre-screened in any way. Thanks again for your patience, and look forward to talking with you soon. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for your patience. We were having some technical issues. I got a lot of staff members letting me know they are in a conference with Ron, and they didn't have the right code for some reason. My fault. So we're getting Ron on the phone as we speak. Again, I've got everyone muted except for our speakers. Ron is going to be on in just a few minutes. If you would like to ask a question when the Q&A starts, just press 5 and then star. We've got a lot of folks on the call. We're going to try to get through as many questions as possible.
Hello, Cindy. Are you there?
Yep, we can hear you. Hey, Ron.
Oh, there is a God.
Been praying.
I am so sorry we're late, everybody. We've been sitting here for 20 minutes figuring with the phones, and I'm so sorry. So we'll still certainly stay on for an hour here. I feel horrible. I got in here early to make sure that we were on here right on time. So please forgive me. We're going to get started here. I was actually speaking into the phone for like 10 minutes thinking you were hearing me, and it wasn't on. And then we heard Cindy, but we realized that it was muted or something. So thank you for your grace, and I'm hoping you'll have it towards me right now. If I can just start all over again by sharing with you, first of all, I know we've got people here from coast to coast and from beginning of internship in Tulsa days all the way to probably last year, all kinds of different spectrum represented here tonight. Thank you for being on the call. I know that when you were here, whether you gave 1 or 2 or 5 years or however long you were here, you poured your heart and your soul and your love into this place and into this vision. And as a result, we're still standing on your shoulders and building on what you built when you were here. Every time we have a new incoming class of interns, I brag about all of you and all the different seasons of interns and what was accomplished, and that they wouldn't even have a place to be if it wasn't for you guys. And so there's not a day that goes by that I don't truly thank God and appreciate what you have done in terms of pouring out your life to reach your generation while you were here. Thank you for that. I apologize. We have not done a very good job. That would be an understatement. We've done a horrible job of staying in touch with alumni over the years and keeping you informed of what's happening with the ministry and, encouraging you along your vision and your journey. And our hope and our plan is to see some dramatic change in that area. What I'd like to do is we're going to take a lot of questions here in just a little bit, but I wanted to sort of introduce the call by sharing some of the commenting on some of what I've seen online. It might answer a lot of your questions up front, or just might help clarify some things, and so that you feel like you're brought into the know here. As you know, last Tuesday, we sent out a press release and almost simultaneously sent a letter to all the alumni that we have emails for, which is not everybody. And I just felt like you guys, because you had poured yourself into the ministry, deserved more than just a press release. I was involved in fashioning that letter personally that went to you to try to honor you and recognize the role that I see you having played in the vision of the ministry. Now, the press release itself, we've seen some of the comments. Oh, it doesn't seem, it's too positive. We know some things are being challenging right now at Teen Mania. It seems too positive. Well, the very nature of our press release is to talk about the future, the forward vision, where are we going, what we're excited about. And tonight, we can talk more about the past, what brought us to this point, to the present realities of what's going on. We feel like you guys, having served and poured your heart out here, that we want to give you a little bit more of the inside picture and why we're making different decisions and that kind of thing. As we did with our staff that are here, we met with them before anything went out, of course, and shared with them, a lot more than what's in the press release, just because people that are closer to the family deserve to know more. Okay, so anyways, hopefully we'll be able to diffuse any rumors that are out there. I see there's all kinds of different rumors out there, and so let me just give a quick synopsis of kind of what has led us to this decision, what brought us to this place. From the beginning, I have felt the onus and the mantle to lead Teen Mania, and that's what God called me to do with my life. And I lead it, but it's governed by a board, and of course, and we have a management team here that is involved in decision making. And I've tried my best to be a leader. Some of you guys may remember, as I talked about while you were interns, my leadership journey and struggles over the year. I never claimed to be the best leader in the world. The problem is when you're a leader and you have faults, everybody sees them. You can't, a lot of people can hide their faults, but when you're a leader, everybody sees your faults. And tried to do my best, albeit certainly not, I look at other people around me leading other ministries and leading other enterprises, and I was like, well, how did they figure out to do that? I'm reading books and going to seminars, do everything I know, but still the portions of my, or the evidence that my leadership is lacking, it seems to be everywhere. And so, even on the letter that was circulated out there to me, the open letter, I thought was very polite and very kind. And, when I listen to the questions that are being posed by you guys online, I know many of you really care about Teen Mania. You care about the future. You care about the past. And I don't feel any kind of disrespect from you guys just because you're asking honest questions, not one bit. So you're being very honoring, even the person that wrote that letter. And they hinted about, well, could it be, Ron, all the different staff and the trends that are happening at Teen Mania, could it be partly your responsibility as a leader? And I'll say no. It's all my responsibility as a leader. I'll take every bit of the hit. It is my fault. It is my responsibility to lead this organization, and trying to get as much wisdom and input from our board and from businessmen and from consultants and from our key leaders here at Teen Mania to make the right decisions going forward. And so, some of our challenges have been no secret. If you've been a staff member or an intern here for the past few years, it's no secret that, we've had some financial challenges. A lot of ministries have. In fact, a lot of companies have. And a lot of companies and ministries have had to remake themselves with the new economy, as we call it, ever since 2008. And so we're in that process. We're in the midst of that, we also have a rapidly declining teenage population in America. We're on the backside of the millennials. So every year there's less and less kids graduating from high school, which all the colleges are fighting over because there's just less of them. There used to be 4.5 million graduate a year. Now it's like 3.7 graduate each year because we're just on the downward side of that. And so every college, most colleges are feeling, I wouldn't say every, are feeling that pain, that the trends that kids are doing now when they go to college is they're getting accepted to 4 or 5 places, even giving deposits, and then just choosing at the last minute which one they want to go to. And so we're caught in the middle of that. Obviously, that creates financial pressure for us. There's less teenagers around to go to choir the fires, go on mission trips, everything. So, so we've had financial pressure. And so part of our opportunity is to go, okay, now what are the real issues with these financial situations? Like, what are the fundamental, chronic, like, why? I mean, we've cut staff, we've done things smarter. You know, I'm amused when I see the words out there. People think that finances are being used in unscrupulous ways or whatever. Like, I don't know any ministry that runs any tighter budget than what we do, that accomplishes as much as we do with as few of people and as small a budget as we have in each of the different areas. But so we've been inviting other people into looking at our financials, you know, businessmen from different walks of life, different industries, look at our financials and see what's going on here, and help us understand how to better run this place. And so as we begin to do that, we begin to see truly how much the campus is costing us to be here. It's not just payments at the bank that we have had, but it's other things. It's things like the light bill, the electric bill each year is $500,000. And when some of the businessmen saw that, they were like out of their minds, like, what in the world? Why would you pay so much? What's happening? Well, we're on a thing called out here, the only place you can get electricity is Wood County Co-op. And basically what that means is they charge you whatever they want, and they split all the money between everybody else that, you know, houses and everybody in the whatever region that are on their deal in the county. And so what they do is they literally charge us by our peak usage in the summertime, and they use that as the standard to which to charge us all year long. And when you think about how much square footage and all this, we're having professionals look at our place like, do you realize the cost of doing business there in Garden Valley on your campus is extraordinarily high? It's way higher than what you would be if you were just leasing property. It's costing you more than $1 million a year extra just to run your organization because you're on the campus, because of the cost. As we have built and built and built the campus, it costs us more and more to run it. Things like the sewage plant and the well and all the different things that you have to do to run a campus. And so in looking at that, it just seemed ludicrous. It forced us to have to go back to, okay, what are we really called to do as a ministry? What are we called to do? You know, when you have a campus, you have to think about, I've got to raise money to put more blacktop down. We've got to fix this, and we've got to do that. And then there's the ongoing costs of just running things. And so, you know, how much time, how much mind share, how much heart does it take, and does it take away from what we're really called to do? And so, as we begin considering this, we thought, where we are hemorrhaging our future by spending so much money just to operate. If you could accomplish the same thing, but just in a different location and save $1 million a year, well, that's a great starting point to start, to begin to build a financial foundation. And so I'm trying to make decisions here based on wise input from other leaders and our board that sets us up for the future, and a solid foundation for the future. One of our board members put it this way: there's not one of those bricks on that campus that are going to go to heaven. Another one of our board members, some of you might know, this person, Marcos Witt, has a ministry all over Latin America, and he actually had a campus about 10 years ago and had several hundred students on it, and they sold it. But he still has it's a worship school, but they multiplied their worship school. Now they're in 92 different countries. They got 6,000 students, but they don't own one piece of ground. So we're not going backwards in terms of what we want to accomplish by having a campus, we can just do it without owning. And that is what I mean by that is what we accomplish in the lives of the interns that are in the Honor Academy. We just want to be able to set ourselves up to be able to think globally and multiplication. How do we multiply the impact for young people all around the world? In Dallas, as you know, we're planning to move there by the end of the year. There's synergies, there's ministries, there's technologies, there's personnel that we're very excited about leveraging. With the Honor Academy, you will have lots of speakers and professors there that are local that we can bring in, that will help add to their program. School of Worship, we've got lots of friends there that, Carrie Job and other leaders that either are in town or come through town. That's much easier for them to come over and do a songwriting seminar for an afternoon rather than having to spend a whole day by coming out to Garden Valley. So they're as I'm communicating the excitement, I think of the potential that lies in going to Dallas and all the lives that could be impacted as you know, we've renamed the organization Teen Mania International. Yes, we've always been focused on international. We've done GE trips, but we're trying to put an exclamation point on that and say, you know what? It's not just our GE trips. It's the whole heart of everything we are. We want to do HA around the world, ATFs around the world. As you see, the world is crying out, please come and help us. We've got a global youth culture, these 1.5 billion teens. They sort of speak the same language, as it were. And it's sort of like marrying of GE and ATF together as we think about expanding around the world, using technology, like we have a smartphone app to disciple kids around the world as we do events and things. And so it's not just having a big event, but there's tools that we can leave them with. And so it's with much heart-wrenching, though, we came to the conclusion that we need to go to the bank, and this is what we did, and ask the bank to take the land, to take the buildings, to take the land, to take the campus back. And we asked them if they would, and they said, okay, they would. And we began the conversation because we felt like this is the best step into the future. This doesn't mean we don't value the time that we've been here or the time you spent here. I know many hearts and lives were changed in the buildings and on the premises here, and all the great things that happen out in the back 40, the retreats and the LTEs and all of that. And but can I just say that the thread that holds us together, whether it's the pre-Garden Valley days or the Garden Valley days of the future, is the heartbeat going forward, and it's the heartbeat to reach this generation in America and young people all around the world, and leverage whatever good thing we have to offer to help reach these kids. And I'll tell you, they are crying out for it around the world, and they're echoing in my mind. And so we're trying to take steps to be faithful to and be obedient to that. So I'm going to pause. I know I've said a lot there. Getting ready to take some questions from you guys. I know I'm just going to hit some of these things right up front so that you don't think that I'm in any way trying to navigate around anything. There are rumors out there I've seen. What is this? Is Teen Mania in bankruptcy? No, we're not in bankruptcy. If we were in bankruptcy, we'd be having a whole different conversation. And so it is very challenging financially, but we're not in bankruptcy, and we're taking smart steps. We believe wise steps with the counsel of many people to help us have a firm foundation for the future. So having said that, I'm going to pause. I went so long here because I saw so many questions on the internet stuff that had come in. I wanted to kind of answer some of those up front. So I hope that does. And I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm not sure how many people we still have on the call, but I've got Jeff Pruitt here with me, the current director of the Honor Academy. If you have any questions about the future of the Honor Academy, he's here to answer those, or I can. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to pause and see who might want to ask the first question.
Great. And I'm just going to jump in real quick just to remind everyone, if you want to ask a question, press 5, the letter 5, and star, and that will raise your hand, and then I'll go through and select you. And because I don't have anyone's name, I'm just going to read out the phone number. And if that's you, just know that you are not on mute anymore. Okay, so the first question comes from 781-927-5444. or 4544. Here we go. You're unmuted. You can ask your question.
Good afternoon. My question, Ron, is in character development class, the leadership, you talked to us about our leadership cup. You said that once your leadership cup is full, responsibilities potentially could fall off. I realized from my time at Teen Mania that turnover is inevitable, but not like this. Over the last 24 to 36 months, 65 or approximately 65 key senior-level staff, for example, the CFO, executive vice president, senior board members, key directors from various departments, i.e. facilities, marketing, IT, development, GE, HA, ATF, sales, and operations have either been fired or quit. You describe this as an opportunity to rewrite the history of Teen Mania. The first part of my question is, do you see all this turnover as a symptom of a larger systemic issue? And then the second part of my question is at any time has Teen Mania not been able to pay the loan payment prior to the ministry moving to Dallas? I guess my question is, has Teen Mania defaulted, and is the foreclosure because of that default, or is there something else there?
Well, and who is this? What's your name? I just want to address you by name, if you don't mind.
It's David.
Hello. Hey, David. Thanks for calling in. What we've seen here in the last 12 months, 24 months has been a massive and dramatic turnover, as you've just alluded to. I mean, you probably said it more concisely and specifically than I could have said it. And it hasn't been all for one reason. There's been some people that have been let go for cause. Other people, they felt like it was genuinely felt like their time to leave. Other people, they could feel that we were in a pinch financially. That things, it's been a struggle financially, and people like security. They like the sense of hey, I'm not wondering if I'm getting a paycheck. Nobody's missed a paycheck, and we've tried to really prioritize that. But people get nervous. They think about taking care of their families, and they think they've worked hard for this many years, and maybe their season's over, kind of a thing. And so I'm not going to point the finger at any one person, and I don't know that there's any one cause. I think more than anything, it's probably indicative of a season changing at Teen Mania. And there are seasons in every organization. You can look at secular, you can look at ministries where you guys like Billy Graham starts with speaking to young youth, and then he speaks to older people, and then he goes on television, then he goes worldwide, and there's just different seasons in every organization. Part of that might be location, part of that might be a season for people to work at an organization. And so I don't want to spiritualize it. We're sort of, if you can think about it like this, like the cars going down the road, you guys are all part of Teen Mania, you know what it's like. Everybody's Mach 10 with their hair on fire. We're running down the road as fast as we can. And when all these things are happening, we're like changing the tires while the car is still going. So we're trying to analyze it. We're trying to put the new tires on, whatever that means, make new hires, or figure out, maybe there's smarter ways to do things. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're analyzing the whole organization. It's not just for example, the campus. We're asking the question, how are we doing the work that we're doing? How are we accomplishing what we're doing? And are we doing things the hard way, the clunky way, the expensive way? And so, for example, we own sound systems, sound and lights for Acquire the Fire. Well, why do we do it that way? There's no band that owns their own sound and lights. Why do we own our own sound and lights? And and so if we were an entrepreneur in a sole proprietorship, you would never own an asset that you don't make money off of. And so we're getting rid of our sound and lights, and we'll rent it by the weekend and just not have the trouble of repairs and all the mind share and the sweat that takes. So anyways, I say that to say that as people are leaving, there's rethinking about, well, how do we do that job, or how do we do the work in that part of the organization, and then maybe we don't need to rehire. So it's definitely not gone unnoticed by what does this mean? And in terms of the bank, we had made all of our bank payments up until we started having this conversation with the bank. And then at that point, we stopped making them because we were having a conversation about, we want you to take it back. And they said, okay. And so I flew out there myself with a businessman, one of our board members. And, we told them that, that we'd like to do something different. Honestly, I can tell you that they've made a lot of money off us on interest. They've charged us exorbitant interest, more like doubled what the normal rate is going. And the last couple of years, no matter what we said to them, they wouldn't negotiate with us on our interest. And so we came to the conclusion that, the bigger picture, having these other people look at our finances, that, fundamentally, think about it like this. I've talked to a lot of alumni today, and so I'm thinking of things that I've said to different ones that seem to make sense. Even if someone came and paid off our whole loan and we still had the campus, it still would not be a wise thing for us to be here because it costs so much to run the campus besides the interest and principal. And we thought that might even be a possibility, that as people heard we were going down this road with the bank, we got indications that maybe people might want to come and help, and no matter how much, you can imagine how bonded I am. My kids grew up running around this campus. We've raised about $28 million to build buildings and everything over all the years to build the campus. Imagine how hard it is for me to say, you know what, it's going to go into somebody else's hands. We pray that it will be a blessing to them. But we have to think about and be stewards of the vision that God's given us. So, no, we did not go into default and all of a sudden, oh no, the bank's taken over. We asked for the bank to do this. Okay, next question. Cindy, next question.
I forgot to unmute myself. Yes. The next call is going to be coming from 347-891-339. Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead with your question.
Awesome. The question is, why did you fail to report a 990 for 3 consecutive years for a ministry you and Katie founded called His Works Ministry, and does this ministry owe Teen Mania money?
Well, I'll tell you why. That has nothing to do with Teen Mania, but I'll still answer it anyway. His Works Ministry. His Works Ministry is a small nonprofit that Katie and I have, and that it's so small. It's less than $50,000 a year income, and the rules are if you have less than $50,000 of income in a nonprofit, it has has so small it's like $100 a year. We actually started that nonprofit so we could raise money for Beth Hawes when she was sick. So we could raise money, and we raised like $50,000, and we gave it all to Dave and Beth for her treatments and stuff because they weren't covered under. They were doing all kinds of non-traditional healing stuff, and we wanted to find a way to bless them. So I told him that I would take up the banner, and he didn't have to raise the money. I'll raise the money. And we found a $10,000 donor that would match, and then anyways. So that's why we started it. The reason we didn't report 990s is because, well, there's no income. There's nobody that gets a salary off of that. But anyways, any ministry that has less than $50,000 income doesn't have to do a 990. At least that's how it used to be. And we were just made aware by our attorney said, oh, they changed the rules. And I'm like, oh, good. That'd be great to tell me that as soon as they change the rules on that, because I guess there's so many nonprofits they don't want to deal with ones that are small. So anyways, we'll be filing them in the future. Even if no money comes in, you still have to file them now. So we're filing that in the future. Does His Works owe Teen Mania money? Well, it's a complicated question to answer. Technically, His Works does owe Teen Mania money, because His Works bought Teen Mania used to own half of Creation Fest, and the board wanted to get that off of our books at Teen Mania. So Creation Fest bought it at a price higher than what it could have been sold to somebody else. And with the agreement that as money comes in from Creation Fest, that his works would pay that money to Teen Mania, because we didn't want Teen Mania to take a hit just because it couldn't sell it for what somebody else would pay for it. So his works bought it, and with basically an agreement that as soon as money comes in from his works, from Creation, that his works would pay that to Teen Mania. So some has come in from Creation, which has also struggled financially, along with a lot of other events around the country. So, good. Next question. Cindy, next question.
Yep, sorry, had it on mute again. The next question is coming from 256-503-8330. If that's you, you are on. Go ahead with your question. Okay, I'm going to pass you up. Next question is going to be coming from 903-752-0995. Okay, go ahead, you're on.
All right, so my question is kind of in relation to that last question. Since there is money owed to Teen Mania, and I believe it was the sale of Creation was like almost $2 million, and since only about $100,000 has came in, would it be possible to have them continue to pay off their debt in order to help Teen Mania move forward towards financial freedom?
Well, I'll just say one last thing about this. It wasn't $2 million. It was $400,000 that was still something around the neighborhood of $400,000, and a little bit has been paid. But as I mentioned, that can only be paid as Creation is profitable. Okay, and so the point is that hey, we're looking in every single direction we can to become strong financially. We've done a lot better on fundraising the last couple of years. We've had a lot of people coming to stand with us, major donors, and a lot of new marketing strategies. We're outsourcing things and that kind of thing. So we're looking all the different ways that we possibly can find to bring in the financial resources. However, this debt is really more of a how would I say? We could have just gotten rid of it, and there would be no debt at all if we would have sold it to somebody else. But we wanted Teen Mania to benefit in the long term, so that when Creation started making money again, it could pay, and Teen Mania would realize some of that. Next question.
All right, I'm going to go to, let's see, 347-891-4397. Okay, go ahead, you're on. Hello? Did you have a question?
Yes. Can you explain why you spent over $30,000 on a new conference room, knowing that you guys were in so much debt at that current point last year?
Well, I can explain. It doesn't mean you'll agree with it. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay. Listen, my job as the CEO is to try to move the ministry forward and to take us to the new horizon, okay? So we raised a bunch of money when I ran the first marathon, and you know, part of the challenging thing for me to have to do is to think about, okay, how do we manage what we're doing, but also how do we take things forward and surge forward? One of our challenges, and it's been chronic, you guys lived out here, you know, we're in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, even though we travel every weekend, all of our management, all of our everything, we're just in the middle of nowhere here. And so the new conference room and boardroom was set up so that we could have regular interfacing with and conference meetings and partnership meetings and committee meetings with groups virtually all over the world, and we use it all the time. And so it's to try to keep us from feeling like we are just not out here in the middle of nowhere. Now, remember, any leader you have the rest of your life, you're not going to agree with all the things they do. And I know that people disagree with me on that. People, and even that we're here on staff, disagree with me on that. But at some point, I've got to try to make decisions that forward-thinking are going to bring us into the future, and that's why we did it. Okay, next question.
All right, the next question is going to be coming from 260-348-6524. Okay, you are on the call.
Oh, hi, this is Greg Newinschwander. And I was just wondering, especially with, you said you give it back to the bank. When I want to get rid of something, my first thing isn't give it back to the bank, it's sell it. So, I mean, was there no equity in the property where we already so leveraged that there wasn't any to sell it? I mean, for me personally, like, if you were selling a property, I'd feel a lot better about it than, like, getting back to the bank because it kind of feels like everything we did was sort of, well, it just feels like the equity's not there. So, I don't know, just can you explain that a little bit better?
Sure, Greg. Thanks for the question. And I can see that's a valid question, how you would think that. What we were advised by land developers, we had one of our advisors in Dallas is one of the chief land and property building developers in all of Dallas. He's been doing it for 30 years. He's built, at any one time, he'll have 20 or 30 projects going. He builds hospitals and all kinds of business buildings and all this kind of stuff. He's been out here. He's seen it. He's seen all of our books. And just because the property is evaluated at something or is appraised at something doesn't mean that's what it'll sell at. And so it was his advice and others' advice that what because of the note that we had at the bank and what the valuation was actually more than what the note was. Okay, so technically you could say, oh, you've got equity, but what you could actually sell something for, this is a very unique property, and so if we're trying to sell it, meanwhile we're having to maintain it, and it's draining us financially. It's just much smarter. Like, if this is the wise thing to do, if the bank was willing to do this, then let's do it. I can tell you that in all the meetings that he was in, and I try to describe this, I think, in one of the posts that went out, and he's been in hundreds of these meetings with banks, because whenever you're developing buildings and land, you're always borrowing money to do that. He came out of this meeting and says, I've never been in a bank meeting like this in my life. I said, well, what are you talking about? They were basically talking banker speak. I had to get interpretation after we came out because there were technical terms that they were using, and I had not a real clue of what exactly transpired. But he said, I've been in situations with banks and buildings that has taken 2 years of meetings with banks over and over and over and over again just to get to where we just got to right now with one meeting. He says, I've been in other meetings or series of meetings with banks that have gotten so nasty and turned upside down that it's taken lawyers, and I paid $500,000 in lawyers' fees just to get to where we just got to right now. That the bank would agree to do this is just shocking to him, and having had 30 years of experience of doing this, and so we just felt like it was a moment of grace from the Lord for us to step through in order to make as swift steps as possible onto financially stronger grounds.
Well, what was the property valued at?
Well, they said that the last valuation was at $15 million, but I mean, and that was what it was a few years ago, and they did another valuation. But again, what it's valued at and what you can sell it at, and how long it has to be on the market before you can sell it at that. Again, it could be a year or 2 years or 3 years, and at that point, you're still doing something in a very unwise way in terms of your how you're operating. As I mentioned, what it costs to operate the campus.
That makes sense. What was the note like that they dismissed? Like, if you don't mind asking, I mean, how much was the loan for?
$9.5 million they dismissed.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good to know because it makes sense. Hey, do you get $4 million out of it, or do you spend $1 million a year trying to sell it?
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Good. Thanks, Greg. Next question.
Yeah, the next question is coming from 541-620-0351. You are on the call. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, kind of one with a follow-up. First off, you had talked about, can you all hear me all right?
Yeah. Who is this? What's your name?
My name's Joe.
Hey, Bill.
And I remember being on staff and having numerous meetings each year, coming up with ways that we can save money, that we can cut costs, that we can do things. I remember fantastic ideas coming up, being told that they were going to be implemented, and then never did. And so that's kind of question number one. And then question number two, more so just a follow-up, on a typical board structure, I mean, you're at the top of the totem pole when it comes to the board, and typically a CEO sits underneath a board, and they can make the final decisions, but it seems that there's no one higher. The board is not necessarily over you, and that you can make decisions along that lines. Does that make sense?
So what exactly is your question?
So the two things of it's questionable, like, did we really do everything that we could back in the day, for sure, when we first saw that there's these problems, even though questions were asked, ideas intending to be implemented, and then secondly, the question was, as far as the board structure, typically there's a board over the CEO, and they can make the final calls, but there doesn't seem to be that overshadowing accountability in Teen Mania sense.
Well, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question, Bill.
Yes, is that true?
This is the way that the ministry is set up. I lead the ministry, but it's governed by the board. So there are certain decisions I cannot make. I am hired as a CEO by the board to run the organization, but certain decisions I cannot make because they're board decisions. Things like moving to Dallas, the board voted on that. Things like, giving the property back to the bank, the board voted on that. Okay, and so I can't make that single-handedly when it comes to a certain dollar amount that it's got to go to the board, okay? And so, yes, I'm accountable to the board, and I always have been accountable to the board. And so I know, and let me just answer, because somebody mentioned this earlier when they were talking about people leaving and board members leaving and all this. Listen, no board member has resigned over anything. People have left the board because it's a 3-year term. When they're 3-year terms, they rotate off. Sometimes they're voted in for a second 3-year term, and that kind of thing. So some board members have stayed on longer, but they're only obligated to stay 3 years. And so people that have left, it's just because it's their rotation time. It's not like, oh no, what's happened? So just so that you know that. To your other issue, Bill, the first question you had regarding good ideas that don't get implemented, you don't know how angry that makes me. And one of the things that we're trying to fix around here is, and I say this, and it's like the white elephant in the room. All of you guys, if you were all unmuted, you would probably scream like, of course, like it's, and it's the sort of the culture here where there's just a lot of confusion. It's among staff, it's among interns, it's, here's a good idea, I thought it was, what happened to it, why didn't I get emailed back, how long have we heard those? And, we've tried and we've retried and then we've retried, we've managed differently and this and that, and it just seems like it hasn't been professionally managed, and no matter what we've done, with job descriptions and accountability, and so one of the things that in the last couple of months the management team and I have been talking through pretty thoroughly is, these are the words we're using. What does Teen Mania 2.0 look like? Like, how do we run this organization fundamentally differently? How do we get the work done that we're called to do? Because the way we've been doing it has, even when there was a lot of interns here, even when there was a lot of staff here, there was still just a lot of confusion, things that we would not be proud of. And, all of us making excuses, I'm sorry, and maybe there's no perfect organization and there's no perfect ministry, and we're certainly not a sign of a perfect ministry. But I feel like we could do it a lot better. And so we're asking a lot of hard questions about the way we do things, and we're hoping and praying that it's not just the move to Dallas, but when we go to Dallas, when we set up there, how we run the organization is going to be fundamentally different as we're walking through this process with outside consultants, speaking into bringing a lot of business experience to the table as we rethink how do we reach outside ourselves and maybe outsource something to these experts and get these guys as consultants or part-time whatever so that they don't have to move on site or have an office. And there's people now, all businesses are rethinking. McDonald's is in trouble. They never thought people would buy healthy food, and now they're in trouble because they've been selling junk food for all these years. It's a normal cycle in any business's life to have to rethink how they do things, and so we're doing that. We're not just moving, but we're rethinking the processes that we use so that when we get set up in Dallas, how do we run things? We're going to do everything we can to have an organization that we can all be proud of, the way we treat people, the way we get back to people, the level of peace and confidence we have when ideas like this come bubbling to the top. We're either going to put them on the table and they're going to get executed, or we're going to say, what, that doesn't bring enough value. We're not going to do that. And so that's my heart. That's the premise that we're going forward with on the kind of organization and the infrastructure that we want to build. Okay, next question.
Would part of the new infrastructure, I believe that both you and Katie are voting members on the board. Is that going to change? Do you see that as a conflict of interest?
Not a conflict of interest. Most ministries that you can possibly think of have the husband and the wife on the board. It doesn't matter because we have a 7-member board, and so it's not a conflict of interest at all. Okay, next question.
Yep. The next question is coming from 248-660-7964. You are on the call. Go ahead with your question.
Oh, yay. Hi, I'm Timothy. I have a question for you guys. Yes, thank you. Hi. Okay, so pretty much everything that's been asked so far has been about finances. I understand finances are a huge issue. That's great. It's America. It's 2014. It happens. Could you explain a little bit of your heart, kind of your vision behind where Acquire the Fire is going, where how the Honor Academy is going to look different, and just the kind of different things that we as alumni can expect to see from here on forward?
Sure. Thank you, Timothy, for that question. One of the things about Acquire the Fire right now is we've got some outside marketing people speaking into how do we think differently about rebranding Acquire the Fire or updating the Acquire the Fire brand. Fundamentally, the event itself has changed this year in a lot of ways. We've some of you are familiar with TED Talks, where they're like 17-minute talks. We've cut down and changed the style of what we do on Saturdays. And so there's discussion among kids. There's shorter sessions. There's curriculum, 6 different new sets of curriculum that we've introduced this year to follow up. So we'll start a conversation, a topic, and then there'll be a 4-week curriculum that a youth pastor can get to follow that up. And so the content is different. How we're delivering it is different. One of the things that we're thinking we're very excited about is not just, as I mentioned, doing Acquire the Fires around the world. That we've already got one set up for 2015, and we've got probably a half dozen other that are serious conversations right now of like when can we come and what would it look like. But here in America as well, we think that some of this rethinking of how we organize and how we get the work of Acquire the Fire done. In other words, how do we get the events to the cities, and how do we book the event, and how do we promote the events, and all of that. We're rethinking how we do that, and as a result, we may actually be able to do a lot more Acquire the Fire events while expending less energy, if you could believe it. Okay, and so we're very excited about that. If you could see the Acquire the Fires, in fact, I don't know if they're still on, but David and Kendra, are you on the line? You guys are with We Are Leo.
Yep, I'm right here.
Are you there, David? David and Kendra,
I am here.
Both, you're alumni. What year were you an intern, David?
I was an intern 2000 through 2001, and then came back as a ministry intern.
And
the following
Kendra,
year.
Who was you married Kendra, who was also on the and
Yes, I married
a
ministry teamer.
And they're with the band We Are Leo. We're proud of what you guys are doing, and you've come to a lot of Acquire the Fire events. I think you're actually coming this weekend to Indianapolis. Is that right?
Yeah, we're totally excited about playing at Indianapolis this week.
And maybe you could just say a word that a lot of these alumni that maybe haven't been to Acquire the Fire for years, maybe since they were actually an intern, just kind of what you see as you've been to a number of these events the last year or so, just kind of what you're seeing and sensing while you're out there.
Yeah, well, it was an absolute blast for us to come. It had been like 10 years since I'd been to an Acquire the Fire, and just walked back in the room, and it was like I never left almost, hanging out with people that I had seen before, Kemtel and Joel Johnson and Ian Ron. And so it was incredible just being back there. And since then we've done, I think, around 15 events. And it's just been awesome to see what God's doing still and that his kingdom's still moving on. We talk a lot about overcoming depression and finding hope in Christ. And it's just been awesome partnering with Acquire the Fire, kind of in a totally new life for us. With songs that we wrote. So it's been pretty awesome. Denver was a highlight for me. Just so many people came up and said that they've been going through that depression and questions about God, and through music and through just the things that we said on stage, they felt like they came back to God, or maybe for the first time came close. So it's just been awesome to be part of that.
And if the other alumni, if you didn't realize, just Google We Are Leo and download some of their music and get in on what they're. In fact, David is just. I thought of him because he emailed me this morning or texted me this morning. Hey, I just wrote this song. What do you think? Do you think it would go over at ATF? And so, and as I talk to so many different alumni around the country, what you guys are doing, different places of ministry, different places of business. I talked to one alumni a few months ago that he's a missions pastor at a church, but he was in pharmaceuticals. He was making $1 million a year, and he walked away from that to go into ministry. And I'm like, oh man, I just love it to see people that just have their, they've got their values and their purpose in place. And he was always looking for and the place he went back to work was for a pastor who used to be his youth pastor when he was young, and so now he's a senior pastor. So as far as the Honor Academy going forward, it's going to be a similar model for what happened, how we set things up in Tulsa. And Jeff Pruitt, you want to just speak to the Honor Academy question, like what's it going to look like when we get to Dallas, just some of the feel and the look?
Yeah, we're really excited. First, let me just say for a lot of you alum that don't know me or familiar with me, I feel like I am familiar with you in helping to perpetuate and carry on the legacy that you guys have, like Ron said, with sweat and blood and just your efforts and energies created. So it has been my privilege to serve the internship and inadvertently you guys and the legacy that you've created. My heart and the ministry's heart is just to continue to do the things that have made the Honor Academy unique, that special DNA that has kind of set us apart in the way that we do things and discipling and pouring into the lives and equipping young men and women to become the world changers and world-class leaders that you guys are and that this generation is becoming. So in our efforts to continue to do that, it's looking at the things that we feel like these are the things that are essential to the essential building blocks and not compromising those in any way under any conditions, but then also looking at ways that we can add new and creative things to increase our effectiveness and to be relevant and stay relevant. In moving to Dallas, there's a lot of benefits, obviously, with being in a big city. There will also be some challenges as well, and we're kind of gearing ourselves up to how to effectively and intelligently address those in a way that's going to help the interns. So our LTEs will change, some of them. I had a GI in my office the other day, and they're saying, Mr. Pruitt, what are we going to do, about some of the LTEs being in Dallas? We won't be able to do some, the same way that we've done them here with having a campus. And I'm like, you're right. And I said, last time I checked, we didn't have a 13,000-foot mountain in the back 40 either. But we do an amazing job of creating an LTE and traveling to where the facilities will accommodate that. And so we'll just have to continue to do that. Obviously, Dallas will have certain advantages in being there with a lot of the other ministries that are there and opportunities, and we will try to parlay every one of those. And then we'll look outside and be creative and find new ways to be able to create amazing opportunities for interns and growth and development, pressing and challenging them. But our intention is to continue to do the things that have made you guys into the men and women of God that you are, and to maintain that anointing and the mantle that the Lord has put on us as a ministry in the Honor Academy.
So, I hope that answers your question there regarding the future of the Honor Academy. And honestly, as we go into the future, you guys, all you alum, our heart has not changed. We want to rescue this generation here in America and around the world. And as I mentioned earlier, combining kind of the spirit and the heart of, it's like GE and ATF are getting married and going around the world on an around the world mission trip, leveraging everything we've learned in missions and in communication in discipleship to young people around the world. And I just want to throw this out before I forget that we need you guys involved. We need you to be praying for us. I mean, I'm not the best leader in the world. I'm just trying to be obedient to what God's called us to do. I'm trying to get as many wise people around us as we can possibly get. We need you praying. Some of you maybe feel called overseas and you haven't gone yet. Hey, we'd love to figure out maybe how we could do that together. As I mentioned, the story about Marcos Witt and expanding his worship schools around the world. We see this similar thing happening with Honor Academy, and honestly, one of the biggest challenges has been paradigm, because we always think, well, we have a campus, we have bricks, how can we do that around the world? How can we buy something? And then we get logged in. We couldn't even imagine that, rather than thinking there's another way to multiply here where you don't have to own everything. I mean, look at Hillsong, New York City. They don't own anything. They rent every weekend, and look at what God's doing there. And so, anyways, we covet your prayers, your wisdom, your insight, your input. In fact, I was talking to one alum today that they're actually working on, him and a couple other alum are putting together a brand new Teen Mania alumni organization that is separate from Teen Mania, but officially connected with, and so works in concert with, that I think might be a whole fresh approach to how we can keep everybody tied together, no matter your walk of life. We've actually been preparing and have waited until after this call to send to everybody, we have your email, a questionnaire that, because we want to get to know you. We feel like, many of you we haven't talked to for 10 years or longer or whatever, and the questionnaire just asks you a battery of questions: how we can pray for you, how we can add value to your life, what are the challenges you're facing, and that's this kind of thing, so that when we write ongoing newsletter and that kind of thing, we'll know a little bit more. We can celebrate with you, we can cry with you and pray with you, and that kind of thing. So be looking for the questionnaire. It should be coming in just a few days. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Okay, bear with me just one second. The next question is going to 209-814. And if you know that's your number, I'd rather not read out the rest of it, because some folks are getting text messages to their numbers. My apologies. 209-814. You're on the line.
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Derek. I've been with Teen Mania. I started in 2010, and then was on the ministry team for the following 2 years after that. So I'm only just recently back home. Well, not home, but whatever. My first statement, I guess, is in response to something, Mr. Luce, that you said, that you're trying to acquire the fire a little bit differently. And I saw the differences. I went to the Anaheim event. It's still the same event. Like, it's not really a lot different. I just wanted to say that. Like, I mean, I was very intimately involved for the last 2 years, so I know it still looks like the same Acquire the Fire. Like, I stopped going to Acquire the Fire after Battle Cry in 2007, and then I started going again Actually, I hadn't gone, but when I decided to go to the Hunter Academy, I hadn't gone since 2006 or 2007. And it's the same as it was when I was a little kid, too. But that being said, I know from my interactions with my friends that are still on the ministry team that there are considerably less people to do the job at the events. Like it's like 2/3 the size of the team that I had, that's putting on the events. And I'm wondering, also, the new January team has a lot of people that have never been with Teen Mania before, and all of a sudden are on Acquire the Fire, which is I don't have a problem with. But I guess I'm curious as to what the plan of action is to make the crew, well, the team, not a crew, but the team for Acquire the Fire to be like, I don't want to sound like a jerk when I say this, but people who really love God, like they do. You spent time with them over a year at least. That's usually how ministry teamers get on there. But so I'm curious the plan of attack for the actual team aspect of Acquire the Fire. That's my question.
Okay, well, just a couple thoughts there, Derek. First of all, the way that we are thinking the future of Acquire the Fire, I mentioned just a little while ago about the sound and lights, and we're selling ours and we're outsourcing. That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. We think there's ways of producing Acquire the Fire. You guys just dream with me a little bit. You have to think differently because we get locked in at Teen Mania. We like to think, ooh, we're so flexible. We can turn on a dime, but we still get our own little paradigms, and we think, well, the only way we can do it is if we have 34 people on the ministry team. And so one of the ideas that's out there is that we might actually be able to do an ATF with a lot fewer on the field, on the team, because if we've got local professionals that are in charge of putting up the equipment and tearing down the equipment and putting it in the truck and driving to the next, then we could do it with a lot smaller ministry team and actually have the ministry teamers doing ministry and not actually setting up equipment and managing equipment, actually praying with people and customer service and reaching out to youth pastors and that kind of thing. So it's in a real-time morphing situation even as we talk. So that's a little bit about the future of the ministry team. And anybody else? Next question. And we're at 9:15 right here. I've still got time. I know we started a little bit late because of I'm dense and I couldn't figure out the phone number situation. I'm so sorry about that. I'm willing to stay on here if people still have some questions for a few more minutes. I don't know that we're going to be able to get to all of them, or people might get really discouraged and not want to stay on the call. But if you do have other questions, you can always email them in, and we can give you answers and that kind of thing. Do we have another question?
Yeah, we do. 704-886-79, and I'm not going to read out the last two digits, but you are unmuted. Go ahead with your question. 704-886.
Yeah, my name is David Johnson, and I just want to know a couple things. Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you, David.
Okay.
Good to have you on the call. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to know how we can help as alumni, not just praying, but, giving whatever, and if we could send out maybe specifics that we can do to be a support to something that supported us for like many years, because I got a lot out of Teen Mania, and I praise God for everything that God did through Teen Mania in my life and in my wife's life, Amy. And the second question would be, can we have a final alumni event on campus, just like a big extravaganza, and come to campus and for one last hurrah?
Thank you, David. Listen, your first question: how can we how can alumni help? That is like soothing waters on my soul. Just the question, honestly. We've been reticent over the years to ask because you guys, when you're interns, you give so much. and you sweat and you cry and you sweat and you cry and you pray and you bleed and everything else. However, as we go into this new season, we really need you guys more than ever before. I mean, we need a strong alumni family that says, you know what, we're never going to agree on everything, and every family has its, warts and things like this, but we're a family that wants to change the world. We've got the same DNA. And so as we march towards Dallas, there may be some specific things that you as alumni could adopt to help fund and make it possible. We're still working on that plan and what it's going to look like, but we're definitely going to have a campaign that we will have to roll out in order to make this possible and to be asking people to be getting involved with. It would be so moving to know that the alumni rallied and said, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to sponsor this. And so you can be looking for that. As I mentioned, we want to stay in much closer touch with you. As far as an alumni event, we would love to do one more massive reunion before we leave the campus. It doesn't mean it's the last one we'll ever do because, we still want to do them. We want to be able to, I know some of the people on the call are from the Tulsa days, and if I could speak to this, I know that there's been a bit of they felt, since we moved to Tulsa, a bit of we're not really connected with Teen Mania anymore. I've tried to make some overtures over the years personally to reach out. They do their own reunions, and they did one here on campus several years ago, and it was great to see a lot of those guys. And but really, it's less about the physical location, more about the heart and the spirit and the passion of the ministry, and that binds us all together. And so we'd like to do a real big one. We're trying to think of. We're not sure exactly when we're going to leave. We know for sure we should be here through August so that all of the current interns will be able to graduate here. That would be a natural transition time for us to move to Dallas. However, we may not be ready to move by then. We're looking all over Dallas right now, and there's some properties and things that may not be ready, that we may want, that may not be ready until November or December. So I guess one question that I would have, and maybe, Cindy, we could pose this question online and with email and on Facebook. If we were to do this one last huge reunion, when would be the best time frame? Because, obviously, most of you know we've done them in the fall, but that's not good for you necessarily. It might be if you're in college, if you just graduated a year or two ago. But if you're a family person, that might be bad. Maybe you want it in August or somewhere before school starts because you've got kids. And so if you would let us know, yes, you'd like to come, and when the best time frame is, that we could try to navigate some dates around that to make it possible for as many people to come and have as many war stories and celebrate what the Lord's done as possible. So, there was a question online about that as well, like when exactly does the bank take over and how long are we going to stay? And the bank literally. The papers have already been signed, but right now we're sort of in no man's land. They literally take over the ownership on March the 4th, and then from that point on, we are paying them rent until we move at a very reasonable rate. We've already negotiated until the time that we move. So why don't we take one more question? It's 9:22 right now, and you guys have been very gracious to me to getting on late here. But do we have one more question there, Cindy?
Yeah, we sure do. Okay, 317-77107. Lots of sevens. You are unmuted, and you can ask your question.
My question's been answered. So bless you guys. Thank you for all you're doing with the ministry, and I appreciate you being open and vulnerable. And we appreciate everything the ministry's done. We're going to continue to hold you guys in prayer. So I guess I'll just use this time to encourage you. So thanks for all you've done.
Thank you. Who is this?
This is Brittany.
Hey, Brittany. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll go to a question then.
Okay. Okay, 256-50383. You are on the call. You are unmuted. 256-503. Okay, they're not answering. Last one, 651-447-335. You are unmuted. You can ask a question.
Perfect. Hi, Ron. My name is Tracy. I was an intern and a CA back in 2002-ish.
Hi, Tracy.
I know that the move is still in the future. But what will the move look like? What will the expectations of the current intern class be? They're paying the ministry for a leadership experience, and I know that character is developed in and out of the classroom and through different experiences, but is Teen Mania prepared, or is there thoughts for hiring people to do this move rather than having paying interns be solely responsible for this?
Well, we haven't gotten that far down the road yet, okay? If you guys remember, those of you guys that were here on campus, when I tell the story about how we moved to Texas, it was interns that did it. And, it was a lot. I mean, obviously staff are involved as well. And I'm sure the interns are going to be involved to a large extent. Our first step in the planning process is to figure out what Teen Mania 2.0 looks like, feels like, tastes like, in terms of the footprint, the staffing. We're even asking the question, what do we have interns do? Are we having them do the smart? Are we asking them to do the things that are the smartest things? So while I'm thinking of this, I saw a question earlier that had come in online that's kind of related to this, regarding if somebody thought their sister was going to come, and is it going to cost more money as an intern there, and this kind of thing, because we're going to have people live in apartments and houses and things. And just so that you know, we worked really hard for a long time to get the internship accredited, college accredited. They get a full years of college credit for the first year. We're up to about 18 units for the second year. Moving to Dallas, it looks like the second year without a doubt, the second year will be like a full second year. So people can come to the Honor Academy, get 2 full years of college credit. Why is that important? Let me just tell you. You guys that worked so very hard to raise all of your money, Aunt Susie and Grandpa raising your money. The reason we worked like this to get college accreditation and to be designated as a teaching site is so that people coming to the Honor Academy will have the same advantage of people that go to college, getting Title IV funding. That is things like Pell Grants and all the college savings accounts. You can use all those for the Honor Academy. So think about this, that instead of just getting donations, you'll be able to actually tap into all the resources that people tap into for college to actually pay for your internship/college. So although it may cost more to actually be an intern, to be in the program, but you are getting college credit, you've got a whole other resource to tap into in terms of, if your parents have saved college money for you, well, now that money can rightfully go towards this because you're getting college credit. And so we're leaning into this pretty hard because we want to help people get on with their college and not just take a year or two off and then go on with their college, but it's the same classes that we've been teaching. It's just they've gotten more rigor on them, and so they're credit worthy. I wanted to share with you in closing just a couple of thoughts. I mentioned this today earlier to an alumni, and he thought that I should share it with you all. I know that most of you know about the Recovering Alumni blog that's been out there for however long, and I had reached out. I wanted to do this for a long time, to call Micah, the girl that had started the blog years ago, and I kept being advised, don't do it. And so they kept doing everything that they were doing, and then finally I just couldn't help myself, and I called her up. It was probably maybe a year and a half ago now, and I'd gotten her number, and I just said, Micah Marley, I said, Micah, first of all, I just want to thank you. You have made us a better organization. You've made us a better ministry. We don't agree with everything you put on there. We don't think all of it's true, but a lot of it's been true, and it's really stung us, and we've changed a lot of things because of things that you put out there. And so I want to thank you. And then I said to her, I want to know your story. You know, I've read bits and pieces of it, but I want to hear it. So she told me her story and kind of what had happened to her and how she got bitter. And I asked her, you know, even though I wasn't directly involved, to forgive me and to forgive the ministry, and and just wanted to reach out to her. And if there were anybody else that had that she knows of that were writing her and writing the blog, that we could, if there's anything we could do to help them, please get them in touch with us so that we could kind of reach out to them and talk them through whatever issue that they may have had with us. And what I thought would be a 5-minute conversation turned into a 45-minute conversation, and very cordial and amicable. And about maybe 2 weeks later, she posted, "I'm done with the blog. I've said everything I need to say, and I'm done." And she turned it over to somebody else who I guess runs it now. I called her soon after the new gal got the headship, and asked her the same kinds of questions and heard her story, and told her that I'd pray for her, and that and she said she was basically taking that in a different direction anyways, that it wasn't just Honor Academy issues, but anybody that's been kind of hurt by a Christian or a religious organization could kind of have a voice there. So I wanted you to know that that's my heart, and there may be some of you on the call here that have been hurt or in some way mistreated by the ministry or by somebody in the ministry. And as the head of the ministry, I ask you to please forgive me, forgive us for anything that has come your way, particularly if it's been an ongoing thing that just continues to hurt your heart or your memory or your soul. We are humans and we make mistakes. I'm not making an excuse. I'm so sorry if in my faulty leadership or anybody else's faulty leadership here, you got caught in that and got hurt in the process. And please know that we are praying for you. We believe in you. You know, as we are trying to do everything we can to hear God's heart for the next season of Teen Mania and follow that vision, I just want to encourage you guys to follow God's vision for your life. And this is a huge step of faith for us. It's a risk. You know, as you get older, I'm 52 now. People don't like to take risks when they're old, but I think this is what we're born to be, right? We're followers of Christ. We're risk takers. We're doing stuff and exploits for the kingdom. And I just want to encourage you that, the thing that God put on your heart, do that thing and stay focused on that thing, and don't let anybody or anything distract you from that thing. Don't let a career, don't let the nice house that you have settled into or whatever distract you from that. And if we all stay on point, the mission that we're called individually to accomplish, then you will be able to look back and hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant," one day. And so, listen, I want to thank all of you for being patient with me on, I know I've elongated some of these answers and gone a little bit too long maybe, but thank you for being on the call tonight. Thank you for being patient with us as an organization and with me as a leader as we're trying to step into the next season. Pray for me. If you have any wisdom for me, shoot me an email. The whole world knows, if you're alumni, you all know my email address. You can shoot me an email. It's not like a big secret. You don't have to be a detective to figure it out. And we'll be cheering for you, and hopefully there's ways that we can interact. Please know, we come to ATF in your city, please come. You have free admittance for life for you and your children. Some of you guys have children old enough to come, so please bring them. Come say hi to me, and let me hug your neck and thank you for being a part of the team, and see your kids and your spouse and that kind of thing. And we will do much better as we go into the future, keeping you aware of what's going on here at the ministry, and also doing our best to kind of add value to your life as you go forward. Let me just take a moment and as we close here, just pray for you. Father, I just thank you for all of these alumni, for all the other thousands of alumni that are all over America and all over the world. Lord, would you just help us all to just renew our love for you and our sense of calling and mission, like we heard it yesterday. The fresh call of God on our life, what we're born to do. And Lord, that we would refuse to be distracted by the things that are physical in our life, whether it's a physical job or a physical problem, and we would be distracted by what's invisible. That's you and your movement in this earth and in our lives. In Jesus' name. Bless every marriage, every family that's represented here and with alumni all over the country, Lord, that they would be honoring and represent you well, and they would experience the richness of what you designed in their marriage and families. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks again, you guys. I look forward to continuing the conversation online and in months and years to come. God bless. Good night.